Well, hello and welcome to another episode, we'll call it, of Open Book. I'm John Gray. For those of you who may have never watched this before, you stumbled on it today. I'm a journalist in Albany, New York. I'm also a writer myself on the side, kind of a side hustle or hobby or whatever you want to call it. And I love talking to authors. When they wanted me to put together a show about whatever I want to talk about, I said I want to interview authors. And I don't want to just interview authors you would know or somebody who's been on the New York Times bestsellers list, but every kind of author, because everybody's got a story to tell. Sometimes people do traditional publishing. Sometimes people self-publish. We don't discriminate here. If you've got a book, we would love to have you on the show. So without further ado, today we're going to talk about, I want to say it's about climbing, but really it's about life. Our author joining us today is Sheryl Campbell, and you have written a book, which I'll put the book up here between us. It is called Climbing the 46 High Peaks, and I'm guessing that's a picture of you on the cover, Sheryl, isn't it?
It is Haystack Mountain up in the Adirondacks.
Wow, what a view, what a view. Before we get to the whole, and I'm going to put your book up a lot during the interview so people can have it burned into their brain and they can go out and get it. But let's talk a little bit about you and who you are. You're from, I'm in the Capital Region, which is upstate New York. You're from this area, or did you grow up somewhere
I'm
else?
originally from Western New York, West Seneca, New York, just south of Buffalo.
Okay. And tell me about your early life. Did you, I see a million books behind you. I don't know if that's a background you put up there or what, but did you, where'd you go to school and what did you do for a career and things before climbing mountains and writing books?
Yeah, so I mentioned I lived in West Seneca, which is south of Buffalo, and I worked there. I got married to a state trooper who transferred out to the investigation center here in Albany, and that's what brought me to the Capital District. And I love this area. I love that you're so close to the Adirondacks, Boston, New York. There's so much to do. I'm very outdoorsy. And unfortunately, we went our separate ways.
Mm-hmm.
And I was always longing to find a community. And I could never put my foot on it. So I just decided to go hiking and I joined a group. And that's how this journey began, really. Joining the Hiker Babes group. There's a local chapter here in Saratoga County and the Capital District.
Before we get into all the hiking in the book, what would you usually do for a career? Did you have a particular thing you were doing with yourself to pay the bills?
Yeah, when I moved out here, I worked for a local financial and management consultant company for 25 years. And I recently, like in the past few years, switched gears and trying to find like what's next, and I wanted to do more of a fun job instead of being so under the deadline, the putting out the fires. And so I work part-time and it just gave me an opportunity to do something different, to pivot, really.
Got you. And a lot of the writers who I talked to before a book ever came on, they were doing little writing on the side, whether it was poetry or essays or blogs or whatever. Was that you, or were you somebody who liked writing, or is this whole concept new to you?
I am a yoga teacher for the last 10 plus years, and part of my yoga journey is journaling. In my training, we call it inquiry. It's an opportunity to discover something that you might not have otherwise discovered. So getting your thoughts out of your head and onto paper, to seeing them in black and white. So I journaled and journaled and journaled. And I think that kind of, I would go back sometimes and grab an old journal and look at it and be like, wow, I really wrote that? Like, those are my words? Like, that's good. So I think that's where that stems from. I never intended on ever writing a book or anything like that. It just evolved. The process just evolved.
So you're moved to the Capital Region. You and your husband go separate ways. You're looking for a club. And what made you want to do hiking in terms of was it just to get outside and meet people, or do you love nature, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I really love nature, and I always feel very grounded and connected in nature. And going deep within, like on a hiking trail or something, you can get very quiet. So you can actually listen to the thoughts in your head. Like, we get so busy with all our responsibilities of kids and jobs and things that we have to do, commitments. Whereas here, the nature, it's a connection that can really get you grounded and leave you feeling like, wow, this is what's my heart's being drawn to, maybe this is my next step, where I'm going to go. So I've always had that drawn. And when I moved out here, I always wanted to do it. And I just never did. My ex wasn't a big hiker, or he just wasn't interested. So I just never did it.
Right. And when people say hiking, that's a broad term because I've walked on trails that I would consider almost more walking than hiking. I've never done one of these peaks. I'm guessing, like there's one over. I used to live in North Greenbush. There's a cute little trail that takes you down. And there's a couple spots that are challenging. It takes you down a little waterfall and stream, but it's probably in the scale of 1 to 10, a 1.2. You know what I mean in terms of physical effort. How do you see hiking? It's not just walking and saying hello butterfly, hello squirrel. There's some work to it, isn't there?
Yeah, believe me, John, when I started this journey, I didn't know what I was getting into. Like I went in with blinders on and complete novice. But I'm athletic, I'm outdoorsy, I'm up for a challenge. So after that first hike, it was 12.35 miles in snowshoes. And
Wow.
I was like, Adirondack miles feel like, they're 4 hours. Feel like 1 mile feels like 4 miles, really. So it was it was the first couple hikes were quite interesting, like to really be like, wow, these mountains are no joke. Like, you hear people talk about it, but each one was harder than the next in the beginning. And I was like, I'm not sure what I'm getting myself into. But therein was like also the curiosity
Hmm.
and the challenge and like what's next. And there was like this gnawing feeling that kept drawing me actually back. Like
Yeah.
I knew that there was something for me there, and it just I just kept following that intuition.
This will seem like a strange comparison, but there's a scene in the movie Saving Private Ryan where Tom Hanks gets a new interpreter, and the kid's right out of boot camp, and he's got all this gear and stuff, and he's like, "Come here," and he turn around, and he's throwing stuff out of the back. You don't need this, you don't need that. Let me see your shoes. Do you have You have extra socks? You must have had that experience with hiking, where most of us have shoes. Dress shoes, casual shoes, sneakers. Maybe in sneakers you've got, those are my running shoes, and those are my prettier shoes or sneakers, and there's my CrossFit walking sneakers. With hiking, were you geared up right away, or did you sort of learn quickly, I have to spend a little bit of money here to make sure I got the right stuff on my feet and back?
Well, I love to ski, so I wore my ski clothes. So I was quite prepared.
Good
The
for
only
you.
thing I didn't have was initially snowshoes. So I called a friend and I borrowed her, LL Bean snowshoes that actually like broke. That the girls that I was with were so prepared because they had already done like 20 hikes and stuff. They zip tied the snowshoes to my boots. Like I couldn't get them off.
Wow.
Things like that. Like I had an old backpack from work. Like you need a backpack, right? You got to
Yeah,
carry
sure.
snacks and your water and everything. So I just had a backpack from work, like the one strap broke. So again, a girl had a carabiner, she fixed it. So it's like the thing that I enjoyed is that people are so willing to help you. Like you don't have to wait until you take training classes and learn all the things. Sometimes you just have to just jump right in and just see what happens. And everybody's very, like, I found the people were so helpful.
Yeah.
Everyone's so willing to share their knowledge and experience and even share their snacks. Like if you're like, oh, what's that? Like the little waffle things. I never had those things. They're caffeine things. I was like, delicious. So like, I just love that camaraderie that you get from meeting
Gotcha.
people and being able to share the experiences.
Got you. Well, if you're just jumping in, we're talking to Sheryl Campbell. The book is Climbing the 46 High Peaks, which are, we'll talk about where they are in a second. We'll talk about the climbs and more on the actual book when we come back. We're going to take a short break, back with our author, Sheryl Campbell, after this. All right, welcome back. The book is called Climbing the 46 High Peaks. A journey of discovery, healing, and resilience. One woman's bold pursuit to become an Adirondack 46er, as they call it. And Sheryl Campbell joins us now. For those who don't understand what a 46er is, I'm guessing, I've never climbed any of them, that there's 46 higher peaks in the Adirondacks. Is that what they are, Sheryl?
Yes, and they're all over 4,000 feet in elevation. And some of them can be grouped together, some of them are single. So everyone goes, there's no order to do them. Everybody does them their own way.
Is there a club you belong to where where you almost have you have a card and you check them off and you get recognition if you can finish all 46, or is this something you're just doing on your own and the accolades just have to come from you and your own mind?
Yeah, the Adirondack Mountain Club, they register once you finish all the peaks. I kept an Excel spreadsheet of every date and every peak that I hiked. And at the end, when you finish your last summit, you register on their website, and then they, eventually send you the patch and your certificate. And it's really an honor system.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
It's really about like putting in the work, and everybody again is on their own path. Some people might take 10 years. Some people might. A guy that I worked with did it in like 23 days. And I was like,
wow,
what? Is that even possible? Like, and you can camp out overnight. You can connect different ranges together. So that's like nobody's path is probably ever the same. They're ordered.
I would imagine so. Yeah, I would imagine so. Are there some that are much easier than others where when you talk to people, like if somebody came to you and read this book and said, Sheryl, I got to do this. I'm 50 years old and I haven't done anything in my life and this would be a cool accomplishment. Would you say, okay, start with, Mount whatever and then work your way up, or is there not, you just jump in wherever you want to jump in?
Most people, when they ask that question, Cascade and Porter are the ones that people term as like the easiest, but they're really like, they're not super easy. Like they're still really challenging. Some are really, really hard. So, I mean, they're all different. It's just your ability, like, and how much grit and determination that you want to put into it. And there's a lot of preparation. You have to be, hydrated, nutrition, there's a lot of stuff that goes in. You just don't wake up and say, oh, I'm going to hike today.
Yeah, I'm guessing you should, at the very least, be somebody who walks right now. I would imagine if you've done no exercise, I'm guessing this is not a good idea to try to do one of these peaks right out of the gate.
No, and I've seen people you can tell there's a lot of people that try to do peaks that are unprepared. I've seen people in Keds. I've seen a woman in the winter in Uggs. She's slipping, sliding all over the place. Like there's no traction. And I'm thinking, girl, what are you doing? But I think there's a lack of knowledge. Like people are like, oh, we're going to hike. And they don't really know that it could be dangerous. Like there's a level of preparedness that everyone should look into before they just decide to say, oh, I'm going to hike a 46er.
Now, when having never done one of these, are they clearly marked? Because I'd be worried about missing some little thing on a tree and getting lost in a mountain, and now all of a sudden, you know what? My turnaround time was 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock, and now it's going to get dark, and I'm kind of stuck here. What do you say to that?
Yeah, I found that out pretty early on, that some trails are clearly marked and others aren't. You have to rely on, you have to download the maps on your GPS. You have to keep a physical map with you because there's glitches that can happen. There's not service out there on the mountains. So you have to rely on, maps or having the downloaded version on your phone. And you can get turned around. I did several times, and it's scary. It's scary to be out in, 8 miles into the wilderness and not know, like, if you're going right or left or starting, you're fighting the darkness. So you have to, worried about getting back on trail. So there's a lot of things that can go wrong.
Do you see a lot of hikers when you're out there, or does it depend on what time of the year it is, what the weather is, those things?
It depends on when I was doing the bulk of my hikes, the weather was awful. But that didn't stop me, like, because it was either raining or cloudy, there was no views. You see, there's not a lot of people then. In the summer, when it's a beautiful day, you'll see a ton of people.
Sure.
And then other hikes, you don't see anyone for miles. Like you can go 5, 7 miles without seeing anybody, and you're like, it's kind of gets to be an eerie feeling. Um, and then eventually somebody will come at you one way, or you might see somebody catch you from behind.
Interesting. Do you ever wear earbuds and listen to music or something, or are you trying to focus like on the? I know with skiing, it's a big. Some people do it. A lot of people do it in skiing. I'm a skier. I got yelled at once at Jiminy Peak. I had buds in, and ski patrol said, "Look, I know you probably love your music, but you're not going to hear what's going on around you when you're listening to Journey." Blasting "Don't Stop Believing." You'll be into a tree, or you're going to run into one of these kids on a snowboard. Do you recommend not wearing earbuds and listening to that? Just keep your ears open.
Yeah, I never listen to earbuds. I always, that's another opportunity, right? To listen to the birds, to hear the wind on the trees and the leaves crunch beneath your feet. Really, it's about, I found the experience for me not having anything. Even the people that I was with, sometimes we wouldn't talk for like 2 miles. We would just be focused. It really gets you present to your surroundings. It
Yeah,
really it really is eye-opening. You get more of a sight and heightened sense of your surroundings. And I always really enjoyed that because I always felt more present. Like you think about like your everyday life, how busy we are. We don't take time to be quiet or still at all. But out there, it is quiet, and then you get caught up in the scenery. And I think that there's being in nature, there's a huge connection that can happen within yourself.
I would think too, and I don't mean this to sound in a derogatory way, because every hiker probably knows someone like this in that community where, oh, if you hike with Joe, or you don't want a chatty Cathy yapping the whole time, you probably do also want to, you don't want to be rude and say, look, you've been talking for an hour straight. I need to focus a little bit, or I just want to quiet my mind a little bit. Do you ever run into that where you have to, or do you have key people you hike with when you guys kind of know your own wavelength?
Everyone that I really hiked with, we created a great connection, and we gave ourselves each other space. Like we knew when there was like, all right, she needs a moment, like, and there was like quiet time, or we really did. We'd go and we'd chat, 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 totally catch up, and then there would be quiet for a while. And then we'd see a beautiful view and reach the top, celebrate, and then maybe head back down and not talk for a while. Or when there were scary moments and then you were, really afraid something was going to happen, or you didn't know what was coming next. That was another thing that you would be like, you would kind of create a bond, and then you would have to let yourself settle. And then maybe a mile later, then you'd be like, can we talk about that? Like, holy
Did
cow,
you
that just happened.
Now in the book, each chapter you basically walk us through all 46 of the peaks. Like you said, you went in some of the worst weather. Did you ever have a time where you turned around a trail because, maybe there's a section you say, this is just too much ice or too much whatever. I got to be smart here, not get hurt. I can come back in a couple of weeks when that thaws a little bit. Or did you just always push through?
No, the first time I had to turn around, it was on the Dix Range, and that's a series of like 5 peaks. It's a really grueling range, and we started in the dark. The trail wasn't marked. It got really icy, freezing rain at the top. You
Uh,
couldn't see. It was like a complete fog. You couldn't see really in front of you. And both of our phones, um, the GPS went out. So we were turned around. And to be in that element, and that was your first essential hike, the peak, and you had 4 more to go, it was too dangerous.
yeah,
So we made the decision to turn around. And by the time we got halfway down, the sun was out,
of
it was
course.
okay. But the mountains really, anything can happen. Like what's happening on the bottom is not what's happening sometimes on the
Yeah.
summit. And we had that happen a few times. It happened on Marcy too.
Yeah.
Marcy was a beautiful day when we started, Bluebird's Day, and by the time we got to the summit, it was like 60, it felt like 60-mile-an-hour winds, and I couldn't even hold myself up with my poles. It was that blustery and it was too dangerous. And we turned around then too.
Yeah. Well, it's a weird comparison to compare Mount Everest to what you're doing because it's a bigger mountain, but it's the same logical preparation and discipline. And anybody who hears what you just said and says, "Oh, she's exaggerating," I recommend they go either watch the movie Everest or go just Google 1996 on Everest. What happened? Where a storm came in and people got caught in the wrong spot, and and they didn't come back down. Well, we got to take a break. I'm up against the break. We'll come back with the final 5 or so minutes with our author Sheryl Campbell, excuse me, the author of Climbing the 46 High Peaks. Right back after this. All right, back with our author, Sheryl Campbell, Climbing the 46 High Peaks. How long did it take you to do a little over a year, was it, spreading these out?
I committed when I first decided to do this, and people were, like 10 years in, 3 years in. I was like, I'm going to do it in a year. I just threw it out. I threw a number out. Like, I'm going to do it in a year. Why not? I just wanted a goal. I wanted to set a goal and see if I could achieve that goal. So it was a year and 20 days to be exact, because obviously there was times where there was weather,
Yeah.
you have to pay attention to that. And safety is always the concern. But yeah, it was really a time commitment, a lot of sacrifices, but the best year of my life, the most challenging. I've done a lot of things. I've done, half marathons and triathlons, and I've always set goals, but this was by far the greatest accomplishment I did, because I got so much, not the physical part of it, but I got so much more emotionally out of it.
Talk about that a little bit, because we all have our demons in our life and disappointments, and you can get down on yourself. What did this do for you and your soul and your heart and your mind to not only in the moment though during the climbs, but also every time you could check one off in terms of, I did that. Some people probably who know me were like rolling their eyes behind my back like, oh, she'll never finish them all, but you did.
Yeah. Well, I kept getting something out of it. It was almost like, peeling off the layers of years of like hurts and different, things that were happening. And a lot of things, I kept feeling that weren't a coincidence. Like I hiked Nipple Top and Dial, and my friend canceled, and I went that day by myself, even though I told people I wouldn't go by myself again. And I realized when I was approaching the mountain that, like, wow, I was diagnosed with breast cancer 3 years to the date. Like, and there was a nudge for me that morning to go. And I didn't know why. And that's why. And it was the journey of the healing, and there were certain things like that occurred along the way that I kept wanting more of that.
Sure.
It's like the best therapy session ever with yourself, right? Like, because you can do really hard things and you can get stuck, but we all have choices. We can make a choice to move forward, or we can sit and pout. And I always was like determined to like move forward with grace. How can I let this go, find the best in the situation? And that's kind of how I approached each hike. And it wasn't planned. There was things that it just kind of happened. And I feel like there was a lot of growth for me as an individual. And I'm really proud of all of the hard work that I put into it, and who it changed me. I'm not the same woman that I started that first hike on. I'm not the same woman that finished with that summit.
Do you hope this book, are you hoping that it will inspire people to do it, or at least take some life lessons from you when they read about what you were feeling those days? And did you write this as you were going, like in your journal, and then you put it all together, or did you have to go back and recall some of the things that happened?
Yeah, well, it's kind of tied together. I'd never planned on writing about it. I was documenting, like, the all trails, timing and everything, and like the conditions, what happened that day, who I was with. I usually lost something along the way, so I would always document that. And then about halfway through, I was like, this is a great story, because I was also flying, I'm from Buffalo, so I was flying my Buffalo Bills flag on every single peak, a tribute to my hometown team, and knowing that they have faced their challenges. And I called it my summit to the Super Bowl, because I was like, I'm going to fly this flag on every peak, and I'm going to win my own Super Bowl. So that's where that journey got tied into it as well. And so then it was like, this is like becoming a story. Like it unfolded, and I was listening. It was probably the first time in my life that I kept leading with my heart. I kept listening to what my heart was telling me instead of what my head was telling me. And all these things just kept appearing. It was like evolving. So then I was stuck at an airport. My plane was delayed. I opened up my laptop, and I'm like, I'm just going to start documenting this process of like each peak. And then it kept growing. And that's what was so exciting about it. It was like the unplanned, the
Right.
spontaneity.
That could be the best time when things happen. Before we run out of time, if people want to get this book, Sheryl, where can they get it?
Amazon.
Amazon.
Just Google it on Amazon, Climbing the 46 High Peaks. And my name is Sheryl with an S, and it'll come right up. And yeah, enjoy. And to answer your last question too, is I decided that the story between all of the things that I went through and became, the best version of myself, is that I did want to document this, because I do want to share this story to inspire people to do hard things, to get out of their comfort zone, to not sit and wait for the perfect weather or the perfect day or get all the training in. Like, give yourself that little nudge, and you might just surprise yourself of what you discover.
Yeah, I always remember, it seems like apples to oranges, but when I took a tour 20 years ago at the Norman Rockwell Museum, and they're walking you through all the different artwork he did, but then they show you go to his studio, and one of the parts of the tour that no one else paid attention to but I did is they said, even if he didn't have an idea, he got up and he got in that chair and did the work until the idea came. So that's certainly what you did here. So Amazon's where they can get this. Are you going to reclimb them now, or is there another mountain you want to go conquer? We're in the last minute here.
Yeah. So, well, now that I've done them all, there's winter 46. So you can hike between December 21st and March 21st. And anything that you hike in those dates qualify for your winter 46. So I'll currently be working on that.
Wow, that's tough. I wish you luck with that. You are brave. Climbing the 46 High Peaks, Sheryl A. Campbell. And again, you can find the book on Amazon. And I hope people buy it for you, Sheryl, and leave you a nice review. And I got a feeling you're going to hear from somebody, it could be a year from now or 2 years from now. Somebody's going to say, I read the book. I didn't think I could do it. And you know what? I just did my 46, and it changed my life. So thank you for writing this book.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And thank you for coming on Open Book. I'm John Gray. Thank you for watching. If you know of an author, send them my way. We love talking to authors here. And buy Sheryl's book. There you go, right there. Thanks again.